So I feel like every text I send or every conversation I have with new people or people right now, I feel like I constantly look for like a rise or like a laugh out of people. And like I don't know if I'm doing it to please them. I think I'm just doing it selfishly. And I think with ADHD, I think my brain likes to make people laugh, right? Or like to do some kind of a joke or to be sarcastic, loves the sarcasm, you know. Uh, I, I don't think it's for their benefit. I think it's for mine. I think relationships are like that too. I was talking to the friend that's gonna get married to this guy, and I feel like we're both kind of using each other in this friendship. Maybe for selfish attention reasons. She's wanting validation to like actually get with this guy, which I kind of play the devil's advocate for with him because he's so much like me. And then I get the attention. Um I taking a look at myself in the way that I text her or other people that I know, and I I'm considered funny by people. They think I'm funny, they think I'm charming, or have a lot of but I don't know. It's it's selfish of me, right? I'm doing it selfishly. I'm not doing it for their benefit. I'm doing it for mine. I just it's like another drug in my brain that sets off and being like, well, how can we get this person to laugh? And that's problematic for me carrying a regular job. I think it's like a comedian, right? You set a precedent pretty high about who you are and what kind of experience they're going to get with you. And then you can't stick around long enough because you can't keep that level going, right? You can't keep that level sustained. And I think I've talked about that before, um but I feel like with every conversation it's like that. Every person that I meet, it's like that. It's like here's this high level, and I don't think it's that high, but I mean it's the highest I can go. I give them my all, pretty much. And I do it selfishly because I get a good response. I have a good reaction. I know my cues. I know exactly what to say to get a certain response that works, trial and error. I use different, funny first liners and stuff like that. And I get the response. I get them to like me, and then I run away. I don't know what that means. It means I can't handle staying in the situation. Just reminded me of parties growing up, right? Parties that I would throw. Like I would come into the party for a little bit and then need my own time to recharge. It's like I'm coming in for session 1 and session 2 and session 3 because I can't keep it continuous. Just can't sit there and hang out with people. I can't sit there and just do nothing. Nothingness is scary for me. Every time it doesn't even have to be an uncomfortable silence. I just avoid silence altogether by keep talking. And that's exhausting. I hate silences. I feel like somebody's not satisfied or not doing enough. And I know that that's needed. I feel like people like to have the silence sometimes. And I have not learned that silence. I feel like in my marriage with my ex, she would need silence, and I was unable to do that. I had to be talking, I had to be joking no matter what the situation was. I had to keep people entertained because I needed it for myself, I think, not for them. That's how I dealt with uncomfortable silences. Just to talk and joke and continue the conversation. And people would think, well, that's kind of irreverent, like say church, for instance, where it is comfortable to be silent and it's reverent, Like for me, like, man, I remember growing up with church, I always had to bring a toy or something to do. And I'm not talking about as like a 4-year-old child. I'm talking about as an adult. Well, even now and such things, I think people bring their phones, to church and stuff. Just to, and I'm not saying that's good, but like, for me, I've got to be doing something, right? Those ADHD kids, like, they're sitting there in the classroom listening to the lecture, but the only way they can listen to that lecture is by doing something in the meantime. For me in nursing school, if I wasn't doing something, I'd be sleeping. And I'd miss the lecture entirely. Oftentimes what I would do is I would play video games and listen. That's how it is in social situations. I think even when I'm in a direct conversation, I've talked about eye contact, I have to be doing something. Like, it works really good nursing. I can sit there and chart, so it looks like I'm busy charting at what they're saying, but really it's the only way I can pay attention to people sometimes. So I'll sit there and type because it's having my brain activate the frontal lobe, right? The actual movement is like a frontal lobe thing. So because I'm activating it at the moment, I'm able to listen to them with my occipital. And so it's cool in that respect, because if I don't do anything, if I don't activate my frontal, I think my occipital lobe is completely inundated by making up for the ADHD part of me. It's kind of overloaded, right? Overstimulated in the occipital lobe for my hearing. So that's why we tend to lose attention a lot, because I feel like that's why I needed to stand up during tests. I needed to activate my frontal lobe so that I could focus, right? That's why we have stimulants that activate that frontal lobe to kind of give all of the other lobes that you're using at the moment a break. Maybe that's why we tap into so much creativity as ADHD, We're hitting the different parts of the brain that are creative much more than just the ones for focus and thought process. So we're jumping from activity to activity. I mean, this is cool stuff. Like, I mean, there's some really cool creative things that you can do. Don't get me wrong. It's just hard socially and interpersonal relationships and planning and actually staying on successful paths in life. Staying in situations for a long term, having longevity for your children, not getting into addiction. These are all things, all traits that we struggle with big time. And the chemical imbalances in our brain are really, really affecting those things. And it's like, if you're deficient in your brain chemistry, right, in an area, like, I know they have brain balance and stuff, but I don't, and I know your brain is aplastic and can learn, but I feel like you're always going to struggle with those deficiencies. And even if you build up really good habits, I feel like you're building up in other parts of your brain. I just don't feel like, if your brain doesn't fully develop like into adulthood, like mine, I feel like that it's close to impossible to do it. Like, I really do. Like, I've given so much thought and I've given so much effort into changing my brain chemistry and getting things done, and in the end of the day, I haven't done a single thing. I'm back to where I was in my adolescence, and that is disheartening. I've gained more knowledge and wisdom, but the way that I handle situations and the way that my brain function has not changed. Like, I'm learning new things, but I'm still that 12-year-old child with ADHD. Nothing's really changed, except I have more sadness with my failures now, and I have more wisdom in my failures, I guess, over the years than I used to. And it doesn't help because I can't change those things. I still have the defunct brain that can't change. So, or keep things held for long enough to elicit change. How frustrating is my existence.